Today's show is brought to you by Milwaukee-based Spike Brewing, designer and manufacturer of premium quality home brewing equipment. Is your beer falling flat? Are you sick of setting up all that gear for a brew day and running out to buy propane? Frustrated by the weather dictating your brewing schedule? Take it inside and avoid the cold, wet winter with the turnkey electric system from Spike Brewing. Trusted by homebrewers and pros alike, the Spike system will change the way you brew and take your beer to new heights. And whether you're interested in a simple upgrade from a glass carboy to a stainless steel fermenter, or you're switching from propane to electric, Spike Brewing has the solution for you. Reach out today to spikebrewing.com/homebrew happy hour, and their team can help you figure out what you need to make the most of your brew day. Spike Brewing. Pursue what's possible.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Hello and welcome to the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, visit homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing. Today I am joined by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com, Mr. James Carlson. Sir, how are you doing today?
How's it going?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but I actually have a starter yeast going on the stir plate.
What?
Right there.
First,
and that's going to be for our Maybach or our Fest beer that we're going to brew tomorrow.
So first off, starter beer, who are you? Who do you think you are?
Yeah, I know. I'm always talking about Imperial. You don't have to do it and all that, but
I love it. I'll just say, and we lost the sponsorship. No, that's awesome. Dang, let's get right into it. Y'all did a is it Maybach or Maybach? I don't know how to pronounce it.
I always thought it was a Maybach.
I think that's
the way I've always pronounced it. Of course, I don't pronounce everything. People claim that I have a thick accent. So
what? You?
That's what they say.
From where? I don't understand your accent.
No, it's kind of one of the southern states.
One of the southern states.
Yeah, southern states, y'all.
I reckon I've heard people say that before. I thought it was Maybach, and Todd called it a Maybach, and so I called it a Maybach, and someone wrote in and was like, "Hey, it's a Maybach," and I was like, okay.
When you're talking to Todd, it's Maybach, and then when you're talking to everybody else, it's a Maybach.
Yeah, I should have told the person, like, when you write the checks, it could be called whatever you want. No, it's kind of like, there's a lot of things I don't know how to pronounce, like Kvik.
Yeah, I'm Norwegian, so, and I have no idea how to pronounce that.
It's crazy.
Kvik or Kvik or Kviek.
Let's just spell it out. Yeah, that's what M-A-I Bach. And M-A-I Bach, how did that brew day go? Because I haven't talked to Todd. I saw your posts on Instagram, but Todd usually fills me in on the details. Did it go pretty smooth?
It went perfect. I mean, we had some issue with some trash in the Herms coil, and I promised him that I cleaned that up, but I might have. Normally what I do is I'll take the water out of the HLT and reroute it back through the cooling coil, the heating coil, the Herms coil, and then dump it into a bucket and just recirculate it. But must have missed that one because he got some trash in there and he had to go back and redo all that. He had already had the water prep, so he's pretty good at getting everything ready, and he had everything ready to go. Everything was at temp when I got to work. So we finished. We did 18 gallons of beer. And we finished a little after 3:00.
Are you sure it was you and not Joe? Did you try throwing Joe under the bus with the dirty coil?
No, unfortunately, I've been the only one brewing on that machine for a while. So, yeah, it was all me.
Oh, you're a nice guy. Me. I blame Zach lately. I've been blaming Zach a lot up there. Because any random thing that happens, I'm like, hey, It had to have been Zach, but no, I didn't get the details. I'm glad we published an article. Lorena Evans from Brewer's Friend wrote us a very good article on the style. It's at homebrewhappyhour.com. And I not really spoiler alert, but you showing the starter is a great time to talk about tomorrow's brew day is the Fest beer, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Do you know? I don't know.
In fact, we wouldn't be doing that starter if we hadn't sold out on our Imperial yeast. So, people are ordering it, and we have to let those orders go before my needs. So that's why we had to use something else.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for the play. It is funny. The restocking order I was told is coming in next week. It got ordered this week, and it's arriving Monday. I think the order came in. I think Joe did the order yesterday, or today is Thursday. So yeah, I think he did it Wednesday, and it's coming in either tomorrow or Monday. I forget, but because they're very quick by the nature of yeast, liquid yeast. It has to be quick. So it's not necessarily an affordable thing to get live yeast shipped across the country or wherever, but totally worth it. And
absolutely worth it. That's the best yeast. I can't say enough good things about it. And when we get a new shipment in, I'm always like, because it's fresh, it's ready to go, and the viability is way up there, and I can't say enough good things about Imperial yeast.
Grab the pats you need, hide them somewhere in the walk-in.
Put them in the back.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Put them in the very back.
First out,
What I'll do.
Back of the fridge in the brew room.
Casey and Owen and everyone at Imperial, they're all such good people. I'll put in a good word for you. I kind of know them now.
You're the man.
I'll just tell them. I'll say, hey, I know y'all know how many pats we actually need. Could you just send, 2 or 3 extras, just to be safe? And then those.
Owen, when we were talking, when we were there and did the podcast, I was mentioning doing starters, and you don't want to mention starters around Owen. He was like, you just tell me what you need, and I'll just send you.
He did. Owen's so funny because he did that, and he's not joking. Like, he's being very sincere.
No, he's dead serious, yeah.
And also, we ran in every year that we've run into him at Homebrew Constance doing the show, even in the days where we had the hiatus. Every time we'd run into him and see him, and he knew us from the show, he would tell us, he'd be like, we'll sponsor, we'll advertise on the show. Just send me an invoice. I think that's the exact quote.
That's exactly.
He said, just send me an invoice. I was like, well, like for how much? He goes, just send me an invoice. Like, oh, God. I do that to Todd all the time. I'm going to just write it.
If you remember, I mentioned to him, I said, no, don't worry about that. You're getting all this free advertisement. He looked at me and he goes, send me an invoice.
That's right. Okay. That's right. Yeah. He got testy. He was like, listen, send me. He's such a good guy. And like I said, Casey too, she's awesome. Taking good care of us, which is a great time to mention that our Patreon, if you missed the last couple weeks and didn't hear the announcement, you just for whatever reason jump forward to this episode, all of our recipe kits that go out at the $50 tier for our Patreon, which is a recipe every single month, or our $35 tier. Our $35 tier, which is every other month, those now ship out with premium Imperial liquid yeast every time. I cannot tell you how excited I am. The response, we haven't talked about it. So last week, I think, was the first podcast we officially announced it. We've been talking about it on our newsletter, and we've been talking about it in our social media, but it must have been people listening in because I kept messaging you and Todd, another sign up.
That's so cool.
It more than doubled our signups for those tiers, and which is
Isn't
a lot.
That amazing. I mean, you get the right kind of sponsorship, and I mean, I'm really tickled that we've got who we have. We
have a great really community, cool. And I was waiting because I reached out to the people to ask them, like, what shirt size do you wear between the options that we have. Which, by the way, we should be hearing. We got new shirts or a new run of the same shirts coming in from our friend Marty there in Comanche. I don't know if he dropped them off there or what the deal is, but we have shirts coming in today or tomorrow, and so we'll be able to get premium welcome packs shipped out. But yeah, I'm waiting for someone I'm going to reach out to them and go, thank you for joining our community, and they'll be like, It's only for the yeast, buddy. I don't listen to the show. It's just for the yeast. And because it has a great deal on the recipe kit. Like it is. It wouldn't even hurt my feelings if someone was brutally honest and like, look, I don't care for your content. You kind of annoy me. The Kolsch.
Yeah, I wasted my time.
Wasted my time on my run. I'm never letting that go. But if they told me that and they're like, I'm only doing it because that it's a heck of a deal. Getting a recipe every month, getting 12% off every order for ingredients on Homebrew Supply and Keg Connection, getting, flat rate shit, all the perks that are part of those top 2 tiers. I'm waiting for someone to reply to my email like, this has nothing to do with you, Josh. It's not. Yeah. Don't be flattered.
You don't think you'll get one of those, do you?
Oh, I do. I do now that I've said it. I want to get somebody who's going to troll. Because people know I enjoy a good troll. And a funny one. Not sometimes people comment on our Instagram posts and it's just a jab, right? And spoiler alert, guys, if you're wondering, what happened to my comment? If you're just being I'm not even going to say the word because I have to bleep it out because my mother listens to this show now. If you're just being rude, I'm going to delete it.
If you're just being a male appendage.
Yeah, if you're just being a male appendage, I'm just going to delete it because it's not even funny. If it's funny and digs at me, I'll publish it all day. Yeah, I like that. I love being self-deprecating. And if you pile on and it's funny, whenever I published a video that said talking about that guy running and how he ruined his day. And the caption was, hey, person who comments with the best tagline for our show, I'm going to give them a gift certificate to Keg Connection. And we got some really funny responses. And most of them were at my expense. But I'm okay with that because they were funny. I think people will pick up on the pattern. If you're making fun of me and it's funny, or if you're making fun of the show or criticizing the show, but it's funny, oh yeah, we love that. Continue on. Thank you so much. But if just Josh, would I think? Nope. Don't got time for that.
Blocked.
Yeah. Sorry. But
it's my spot.
Not to boast, but we have thousands and thousands of listeners now. And every day I literally get hundreds of emails with either questions or feedback.
That's so cool.
When I start seeing emails where it just starts off with something, rude or whatever, I either reply just generically, well, thanks for tuning in, or I just move on. But anyway, yes, our Fest Beer Brew Day tomorrow. And so what are y'all that starter was made from?
It was an Oktoberfest strain of yeast.
Perfect. Awesome.
Yep.
I think I used White Labs on an ESB that turned out really good. And I used a Y yeast. They're the ones who do the slap pats. My dad and I used one of theirs slap pats. What would that have been for? Would that have been maybe for the breakfast stout? I bet it was.
Maybe so.
I think it was for the breakfast stout. We dote on Imperial because they're incredible and they're amazing. But we also should follow it up with guys, you're spoiled with how good of yeast options there are out there.
Absolutely. I can remember the days and it was just dry yeast.
I was going to say, you talked about that before where you're like, I used what I used because it's all I could get. And now we're beyond that. It's 2020. You have the sky's the limit. It's a wonderful time to be a home brewer.
It's great. And we talk about Imperial yeast all the time. But that doesn't, we don't want to discount White Labs and Weiss. They make a good product. I just like the fact that, Imperial thinks ahead to put those kind of numbers of cells in a single pack, and that's just less to do in a brew day.
It also it gives me confidence because when we brew and we take a pack from store inventory, we take the oldest pack when we're doing our in-house, and I still never have problems. You know what I mean?
No. It's like we talk about this all the time. We did a Kolsch back when we were doing Kolsch literally every other week. And this is a true story. I did a batch of Kolsch on a Friday, got to work on a Monday. It was finished out completely at final gravity. I cold crashed it for 3 or 4 days, kegged it. We were drinking that beer that next Friday.
I remember. I was there.
And it tasted really good. It obviously tasted a little green, but there was nothing wrong with serving it. It was not as clear as you would think, but even with some of Imperial yeast, highly flocculent strains of yeast, they'll drop out pretty clear quick.
Seriously,
So
I know.
they make a good product.
Incredible
Can't
stuff.
say enough about it.
And I know what I wanted to say. I finally transferred my kombucha. And if
sweet.
people, I was told that kombucha is a great way to curb a sugar addiction. And do you want to know why I think it is?
Is it sweet?
No, well, it kind of just punches you in the face with like a, hi, I'm kombucha. And you don't really want to do anything after you drink it. Like I took a...
So what's it taste like?
Well, I mean, I've bought commercial kombucha, never plain. Like this isn't flavored. It tastes like it should, I'm assuming. It's not bad. It's vinegary is not the right word because it's not, but it's that kind of on that higher end of maybe tartness. It is good. Might not be the right word either. What is the word I'm looking for?
Well, you're just sweetening the pot all.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. It is quenching, if that makes sense. So it is.
So it's a real dry.
Yeah, this one is. But again, I honestly, it's like I remember my doctor years ago. Because I again, self-admittedly, not joking, I think I'm addicted to sugar, specifically sugary cereals. And my doctor forever ago would go, if you want to know if like you're hungry or you're just bored and craving, get a spoonful of coconut oil and just put it in your mouth. And then that will, just suck on it, be like not liquefied. Usually we have it to where it's kind of a solid. And once that's done, you'll kind of, your body will tell you like, yeah, I was just bored, or no, I'm actually still hungry. I think this kombucha is going to do that for me, man. I think at night, it's 11:30 p.m., and my brain, I'm watching some YouTube video, my brain's like, you need cereal. And I just go to the kitchen and I'm going to pour myself a glass of kombucha first and go, no, I'm just bored. Okay. I think that's what.
So to help me with this, because I don't know a lot about kombucha, does it have alcohol in it?
I think it's super low because
like grape juice,
or
apple juice.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's less than 0.05 or 0.5.
Okay.
As
So
I bet it's you know what?
But it ferments, right?
It does, yeah. And I have a SCOBY hotel going where I had the original SCOBY and its daughter that the mother bred, and they're now kind of forming into one super SCOBY. And I have so many, poor Lorena Evans from Brewer's Friend. Every other day, I'm like, does this look normal? What do I do here? When I transfer, what do I do now? What do I do now? But she's been a great help. So I'm going to keep doing this, brewing it over and over and over and replacing. When I want cereal, I'm going to pour me some kombucha. And
like a sourdough starter.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, and Todd wants me to bring up some, so I'm going to bring some up Monday and then you can try it.
Yeah, that's,
It's like that. It's like that quote you gave me, Josh. Really try. Or when the ladies in our lives taste something and they do that look and they go, try this.
That.
Yeah. Which before we get to the questions, one last thing, go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour to hear all the news about our February giveaway, about our February live Q&A with Michael Ferguson, the Imperial thing, all the other news. But most importantly, we are launching a whole new show starting Monday, the 24th. I think that's the Monday, a recipe recap and review show. And we're going to be filming the first few episodes when I come up there Monday. And with you, it's going to be a show where we talk about the recipes that we're brewing. I
think we're doing the Fat Tire review. The Fat Tire clone.
That is one of them for sure. Absolutely. We're going to be talking about the actual recipe itself, like the build, the ingredients of it. We're going to talk about the brew day itself, like from collecting the water to pitching the yeast. And we're going to talk about fermentation process, and then we're going to review the final product. We're going to pour the beer, which is my favorite part of the new show.
Oh, yeah.
And discuss the actual beer. I'm excited. This is a part where a lot of people have recommended we do this on this show, and I've always thought, that would be nice as a special one-off, but we've been brewing so much, dude, and we want to brew more and improve these recipes. It just made sense to kind of tie it into a whole new show. So if we're going to have this show as first access for members of our Patreon at all levels, $1 up to the top tier. So you'll get first access to this video show. We don't have plans of doing an audio-only feed like we do this podcast, unless y'all reply and say, no, I don't have time to sit down and watch your ugly mug talk about, I'm on the road, darn it, and I want you to just, they can listen to it. If y'all want that, let me know, because if the demand is there, we'll publish it. It's not that much extra work. But anyways, very exciting stuff coming for our Patreon. I did bring 3 questions for today's show, James. So getting into question number 1 came from our friend Danny F., who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Danny wrote, "Thank you for the great podcast. I only have a couple episodes left until I am caught up, and what to do with my extra time now." I know, it's crazy, Danny. Anyhow, I know that you, Josh, have talked about sparkling water many times. I have not seen or heard any episodes yet, so ignore me if this is one of the episodes I haven't caught. If not, can you give me some pointers on how you create your sparkling water? I am not so much into the seltzer type flavor, but I'm looking for a flavored sparkling water similar to the San Pellegrino flavored cans, or like what the majority of chain stores sell as a flavored sparkling water, usually like Splenda as a sweetener. Have you tried any varieties as an option? Any help would be greatly appreciated. Keep up the great show and hope you continue to enjoy spending Todd's money. I do, Danny. When I sent it, which I forgot to mention, Todd's out. His mother's having surgery today. Yep. Prayers are with her. She has diverticulitis, unfortunately. And so at 83 years old, she is being in Brownwood or Abilene. I forget where the surgery is.
I would probably say Abilene.
That's what I thought.
I think that's Abilene.
But yeah, so that's why he's not on. He wouldn't have cared for this question anyway, because when I talk about sparkling water, it might as well be talking about Kolsch to him. Like, yeah. But you had mentioned to me beforehand, dude, that's all use. It is and it isn't. The reason I really included it too is because obviously, for me, I have to admit, I've never flavored my sparkling water. It's not out of laziness. I just like that Topo Chico high carbonated kind of bite, and it makes up. I might squeeze, like I'll cut up a lemon and squeeze, or lime, pardon me, and squeeze it. But I've never actually put, like in a hop bag or dry hop in air quotations. I'm not sure because it's not hopping.
Yeah. I mean, you could. I don't see why you couldn't just put it in the keg when you fill it up with water. I don't know. I mean, you don't even do water, right? Do you? No. I have a couple of times just to test some of our faucets, because we do actually a lot of the majority of our beer faucets are being now served on water dispensing machines, primarily on the West Coast. We got them all over the place, so from time to time we have to test, because that's quite a bit higher pressure than we would on beer. And I just fill it up with tap water and carbonate it. So
that's what I do too, man.
There's not a lot of taste there.
I know. Well, I wanted Danny though, because there's some things that we can mention to him that would help. Well, one, like sparkling water, if you have the space on your kegerator, it is worth doing, because you'll find yourself drinking more water. And not to sound, like a Debbie Downer here, but most people don't drink enough water. And if you have it on tap, it is more likely. I know the biggest regret I have for taking my kegerator to my pop's house is now I have no sparkling water at the home, and I'm drinking less water. And I can tell, like around 11 a.m., I haven't had any glasses of water and I feel dehydrated. It's a bad feeling. Sparkling water will do that for you. It'll make you drink more water. Adding flavors. I know, like you said, James, it's been recommended to me that I can put it directly into the keg to add the flavor. I do it on a per pour basis, like I said, cutting up a lime or the lime juice stuff and just a couple drops or nothing at all, because I genuinely like the carbonic acid flavor. The flavor might not be the right word, but you know what I mean?
That carbonic acid gives carbonated water that bite. And that's what's created when you carbonate water. It creates carbonic acid, and that's the bitterness and the bite on the tongue that you feel that's the CO2.
Right. And I know, like, I go for, in my eyes, because there's a gazillion brands now doing sparkling water. Every grocery store has their own in-house version of it too. I'm sure they're all great and good people, whatever. But in my eyes, it's Topo Chico is like king. San Pellegrino is like right up there, Prince or king of a different place. And then you have all the other ones that I'll drink, but I don't like. LaCroix,
Yeah.
Todd likes.
That's probably the easiest to find, wouldn't it be? The
LaCroix is, and that's why I used to have demands when I would come up to headquarters, like, I demand sparkling water from Topo Chico, and Todd would get me LaCroix. And I was like, and I would tell him who ordered this Wisconsin butt juice, but he didn't laugh. He likes it. But no, nothing against you, LaCroix. You have your niche, whatever. But Topo Chico has the biggest bite, too. That's what I always go for. I always carbonate at like 35 or 40 PSI, and that's what I serve at as well. And that has the best bite ever. I know, commercially speaking, don't you have clients that carbonate like 50 and up?
Yeah, we have one big customer, and they'll do it at 60 PSI.
That's what they're serving at?
Yep, that's what they serve at, and their machine will infuse it. It's got a pretty substantial filter system. I think it's a 2-stage filter, and then it goes through a carbonator. And they're running at 60 PSI.
Now, I'm sorry, it just blows my... That is so much pressure.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Well, that's why they have to have flow control, because if you didn't have flow control, it'd blow the cup out of your hand when you opened it up, or just spray water everywhere.
I was going to ask you, because so when I told Todd I'm going to implement a sparkling water into my kegerator, the first thing he sold me, it was a inline flow control, because he knew my setup. The two faucets, I couldn't put a flow control on the tower that I had. The column's too small. But so he sold me a inline flow control, and he said, you implement this, you have to have it. And I'm going to be honest, James, I've never known why I had to have it. Is it because he assumed I was going to be going at those high of pressures?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you're gonna do carbonated water, you can't serve it at 8 to 10 psi like beer. It just doesn't work. To maintain that carbonation level, you have to be over 30 psi, and at 30 psi, when it's coming out of an unrestricted faucet, it's pretty dramatic.
So if I didn't implement it, he would have known, because I would have called and said, "Hey, dude, my whole office is sprayed with water." Is that what?
Well, you'd be probably saying, man, that's all right, but when it first comes, because all that carbonated gas, that CO2, comes up through the liquid, and it creates an air pocket in that faucet chamber. So when you first open it, you get that surge of gas pressure and water, so it'll spit like you've never seen it before. But when it's restricted, you can actually, and this is what one of our customers use our faucets for, they use a flow control with the creamer function, and they'll burp it. Because you could burp it with the creamer function, and then serve a glass of CO2 water. Works really good.
That's actually brilliant. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Was that discovered by accident, or is that a feature?
One of their engineers, because they were looking at getting different design faucets on a new line, and I had mentioned to her that you can save a lot more money if you don't order creamer. It's water. There's no reason for you to have creamer. And she schooled me on it really fast.
Really fast.
Yeah. She said, no, we have to have creamer, and explain why. And it makes a lot of sense.
That's awesome. So yeah, to wrapping up, Danny, I would say, obviously the making of the water is easy. James, you feel confident telling him, like, hey, just throw it in the keg if you want flavoring?
Yeah, you can throw it in the keg, but I've also got another neat little MacGyver idea I think you might like. You go into Amazon, you'll see the basic 10-inch by 2-inch water filter housings. I think you can buy them for $10. Put a couple of barb fittings on it. You can actually use that as what they call a grant. Sam from Dogfish was famous for his tap room has grants on the bar top filled with hops. So you can add flavor and aroma hops as you're serving the beer. Well, why couldn't you do that with fruit? So what I would do is I would get one of those filter housings, and then I'd load it up with citrusy fruit and see how that turns out, like pineapple, anything that pineapple, orange, lime, lemons, whatever. Stick it in there, and then as the CO2 pushes through, the gas is going to help grab some of those flavors, and it'll mix in as it leaves the vessel or the grant and hits the faucet. That might not be too bad. There's lots of things you can do with that.
And like you said, you find it on Amazon, right?
Yeah, the filter housings, I bought them for using filtered beer when we're kegging. They're $10 on Amazon, next day shipping.
Oh, so it's not going to be a lot of overhead just to try it.
No, and then think about it this way. You can get a 0.5 micron filter that'll go in there because that's the most common size. And you can filter when you're kegging your beer. We keg our beer under CO2 pressure because our conicals will handle the CO2 pressure. We'll just move it with the CO2. Sometimes if I don't want to wait 6 to 8 weeks for bright beer, I'll pass it through a 0.5 micron filter and it'll come out crystal clear.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. James, the engineer.
Yeah, just because I'm poor, I have to know what works on a tight budget.
I love it. Just because I'm poor. That's to be on our next.
Yeah,
that's to be on
the
tagline on our next T-shirt. Homebrew Happy Hour. Just because I'm poor.
Yeah.
Danny, thank you so much for submitting the question. Our second question came from Patrick using the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Patrick wrote, "Great show, Josh. You're great. Love Kolsch. Okay, now I got your attention." It's true. My question is, I recently made a brown ale. I mixed up the hops from another recipe I had. The issue I have is that the beer is a little too hoppy now, especially for a brown. Is there anything I can do, or do I have to learn to just like 5 gallons of hoppy brown ale? Secondly, he said, I could not find the Irish moss on brew day. Is there any way to best clarify it now? I'll take a stab at the second part. Time will help.
Time cures everything. And also, you got to remember, if we're talking about bittering units, they have a process. Hops go through a process of, and I'm going to botch this word, but isomerization. And that's the converting alpha acids into bittering units. And once they're converted, they're there. So you might let it wait a little longer. 6 to 8 weeks will get it fairly clear. It might subtly change the bitterness of the beer. But normally the aromatics and the flavors of hops is what fades over time, not the bittering. Once the bittering is created, it's in there. So just give it time. You might grow to like it.
I was going to say, before you dump it, which again, I love Patrick.
Don't dump it.
I was going to say, I love Patrick that wasn't even an option. You're just like, his option was, is there something I can do, or just learn to like hoppy brown ale? I like that kind of thinking, man, because that's what we do too, where it's like, oh, it's a little sweeter than I thought. Like, that's how you felt about your Bohemian Pilsner.
Yeah.
That's literally how you felt. And can you imagine if you would have dumped it? I mean, obviously you wouldn't have, but how many people ended up loving the Bohemian Pilsner, even though you were like, I'm just going to have to learn.
Wasn't a big fan of that beer, but I will say the Pilsners always do better over time. So it just took, sometimes just all it needs is just 2 or 3 more weeks.
And there was some of your Pilsner left like 8 weeks after you had kegged it. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, it was a different beer. I liked it from the beginning, different. But it was a different beer, and in a good way,
Yeah.
It was in a real good way. So yeah, I think, Patrick, time, and that might sound like a generic cop-out answer, but it's just true. And in our anecdotal experience, we've had ESBs, I remember, that have settled out, that have mellowed, and like, man, that's really good. Joe's Pale Ale for my dad. Really liked it as time went on. It just, to him, got better. Speaking of brown ales, my dad didn't initially prefer the Northern English brown ale that we have. Now he loves it. He might have actually floated that keg because
cool.
Apparently he's been enjoying beer when I'm not there. What's up, Pop? But
I would too.
I know, right? I would too. You brought the Kegerator over, you idiot. I think there's still some left, but he made a comment at one point, many weeks after we had kegged it, where he said, "Oh my gosh, this is really good." I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "No. Like, now it's really good now." I was like, "Oh yeah, I thought it always was good." But
and that's we always talk about bittering and hops, and that 60-minute addition is so critical on what you use and how much you use of it. I would tell you this: write down notes and weigh your hops. If you don't like the bittering in it, back it off. Just because the kit comes with a full ounce of bittering hops, that doesn't mean you have to put the whole ounce in it or whatever the amount is. Make notes, tasting notes on what you're brewing, and you can fine tune that. I would tell you this: if you're going to brew a beer and you're not really sure about the bittering hop amount, always go less, never go more. You can do more with aroma and flavor. That's no problem. But the bittering, that's the part that can really, to me, and y'all know how I feel about bitter beer. Man, if it's too bitter, I'll dump it.
Bitter beer face. Wait, you remember that campaign? Oh.
Yes, I do.
But now that's us. Look at it. It's come full circle. Now we have bitter beer face. That's too hoppy. James, I think this is too hoppy. And you're like, yeah, Josh, high five. And Todd's like, I hate y'all. Patrick, thank you so much for submitting your question. Mr. Carlson, I've got one more question for this week's show, if you've got the time, my friend.
I do.
From our buddy Wood, who also used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Wood wrote in, "Hey guys, I've been listening to Homebrew Happy Hour since the very beginning. My wife even listens when we're in the truck together. We survived the early days when the production wasn't the greatest." Yeah. We suffered the long silence when no new episodes were coming out. Oh, see, this is what I'm talking about.
He has been listening from the beginning.
And finally, we've weathered the storms of breakfast stout and Kolsch. See, this is what I mean by if you're funny or if you're just stating the obvious. He's not being critical. He's just.
It's funny because it's true.
It's funny because it's true. Needless to say, we love the show and you guys, what y'all are doing for the homebrew community. My question is, I'm looking to upgrade from bottling to a 4-tap keezer setup. I'm confused, though, about the kind of faucets I should get. I'm struggling with deciding between the CMB V3S and the CMB X1 flow control. What are the differences and which would you install on your system? Before you get into the differences, if you're doing a keezer, the sky's the limit, my brother. Like you can do, when that's the most ideal for me, in my opinion. A T-tower is second to that. The column towers, you don't have a lot of flexibility for future proof, or future upgrades rather. But
right.
a keezer, you could start off with whatever and work your way up, or you could start big with, the V10, or the flagship faucets. I mean, you could put a quick Jeff faucet on there if you wanted to.
You could put whatever. The cool thing is you'll have to, more than likely, to put corny kegs. You'll have to build a collar or an extension. I think the one that Todd did was 2x10s.
I believe so. Yeah,
made a 2x10 box to fit directly on top of it, and then you bolt the lid to the box. You can put whatever faucet you want in the front. I don't know. It just depends. If you want to do, we have an entry level, the X1 faucet's a really good entry level flow control faucet. The shank is the issue. And let me explain that. Our flow control faucets, now in the shank, you have a bullet we call the compensator that interfaces inside the shank. So it's machined for that. Our faucets don't put all the flow control restriction inside the faucet body because it's just too much to do in such a small amount of space. So we utilize part of the shank to make that happen. Does two things. It gives you a broader range of flow control, and also it gives the beer a linear flow better than if you had a little plug about that big versus our compensators about that long going into a shank that's the same length. It just works better. They use it all over Germany and Europe. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've been into a pub or a bar and we're always looking and there's the V10. That's our flagship faucet. But we do have the X1. It's got a 2.5-inch shank. Now, we do offer 5 and we do offer 9-inch shanks, but the price goes way up because we have to have those custom made. So what you could do is you could hollow out that 2x10 if you're going to put a collar there. If you're not going to put a collar on and you found a freezer that was tall enough, you can go right into the sidewall. Just make sure you're not hitting a cooling tube. You don't want to do that. But if you hollow out some of that wood material, you can make the 2.5-inch shank work, and that'll save you about $30.
Yeah, and the X1, the X1's the one that is still in most restaurants stateside that buy from you.
It's our the only faucet in Twin Peaks. Now we've started upgrading, though. They wanted to upgrade to a full stainless steel faucet, and they're doing that right now. But the majority of the Twin Peaks restaurants are still using the X1 flow control. So that if you have the money, I'd put in flow control because, we were just talking about water. If you wanted to add water to one of the kegs, you could. I mean, of course, you'd need a secondary regulator, but you can use the same faucet. Just push the compensator in a little farther, and it'll help regulate the flow coming out of the faucet. They're ideal. They're so versatile. You can use it for soda. You can use it for coffee. We even have actually a standard-looking faucet that has the diffuser and the nozzle that you can use for nitro coffee.
And kombucha.
And kombucha, sure.
You have one that you at one point with a customer, y'all did a one-off, didn't you, for kombucha?
We did. That didn't pan out to be anything, but we were hoping.
Yeah. I remember we on the floor, like, because it's that seafoam colored faucet. And how many people at HomebrewCon came up and were like, hey, look at this. How cool is that? Because it's so retro.
Yeah. And then if you remember, when we got back to Texas, they were on the phone calling that next week. They bought every single faucet we had in stock. It was an old, outdated color.
Yep.
I still don't know what the green was for.
I don't know if people think kombucha.
We passed it off as kombucha, but it was they sit in our backstock room for years and years.
Some retro looking thing, but yeah, the X1 is, as I'm trying to, we have the 2 kegerators at my dad's house. And so we don't need a keezer yet, but ideally I want to build out a huge thing to where we have it all housed in one, and we could use those kegerators. I could bring one back here for my water and kombucha. And then maybe we could have one there for soda, a tower that has soda and water on it. But the V10 is what I'm eyeballing, but I happen to know the people, and I get the best. I get the friends and family discount from Todd, which is retail plus 30%. So I found a heck of a deal. But no, kidding aside, I have V2Gs on one kegerator, which has been discontinued. But the V3S,
it's just a longer body version of the V3S.
Exactly, and we have more V3Ss than anything. They are amazing. They're like the Glock of faucets. You could put that through the ringer and they perform. I've not had any issues. With the only issue, and it was user error. We hosted a party a long time ago, and some dum-dum who some family member, so if you're listening, you're a dum-dum. I don't remember which one of you it was, but they hit way too hard on the creamer. And so they bent the end of the encapsulated piston. And so it can bend when you Hulk it. It will bend. Like, they went back and it was doing creamer and they thought it wasn't back enough, I guess. And just,
and that's what sometimes I have to tell our customers, our wholesale customers, to let the retail customers know that the creamer functions just a fraction of the throw of the forward function of the faucet. So when you're opening a normal faucet, the lever may move this much, but the creamer is going to only move this much because it's just cracking open the center of that shaft and seat, and it pushes the beer the liquid through the center of that. And it's such a small orifice that the gas wants to leave the liquid, which causes the creamer function to work. So the V3S is a great faucet, and for the money, you can't get a better quality faucet. It's very simple. Our shaft and seat is a creamer function. It floats it floats and centers inside the housing. So if you looked at it, you can take it apart in seconds. It has like a knuckle joint, a floating knuckle joint. So what it does is it doesn't side load the valve inside the faucet that can promote dripping. It just kind of grabs it. It's a ball and socket, and it allows the shaft and seat to ride center in the bore. It doesn't get crooked. It's super easy to take apart and clean. We carry faucet parts for it. It's not a throwaway faucet. All of our faucets have a support behind the cell, so you'd never have to buy another one unless you tear it up.
See, you read my mind. I was about to say that. I was like, if he goes with the V3S for now and plans on upgrading, those V3S don't become obsolete. You can resell them. You can use them for another build. They definitely maintain their integrity. And again, how old are those V2Gs I have? Like, I mean, because I got them. I got them
10 years old.
I was going to say, I think they're 10 years old because I got them. They weren't like new they were batch stock inventory from back before Todd was ever affiliated with CMB. And they work wonderful and they look clean. And the V3S has that same bent nozzle design now as an option.
Yeah, you can get a bent nozzle, which is really cool because a lot of people will get our competitor faucets and then they have to get the adapter for a growler filler. And you can get a V3S with a bent nozzle. You can get an X1 with a bent nozzle, and all you need is a piece of silicone hose, a foot long, and you just slide it on the nozzle and use it to fill growlers. And I mean, who can't afford a hose?
And that's what we do.
I ordered an adapter for a Micromatic faucet. And Micromatic, they make good stuff. That's a quality company. But the adapter, the growler filler adapter, was so expensive that I'm not even going to say how much it was because you wouldn't believe me if I told you.
400. No, I know what you're talking about, because I know as well. We have there are other faucets out there from like Intertap or whatever that, adapter. It's just another thing to have to do, where if you just came out if you just had the bent nozzle, it's
just
great.
Throw a piece of hose on it. You don't have to worry about O-rings leaking, removing and replacing parts. Just throw a hose on it. You can keep the hose in the drip tray.
Exactly.
You know?
It's great. And for filling growlers, because one of the things that my dad and I do, well, now, I need to bring the Blickman beer gun back to you guys. That just reminded me. I was just saying, now we bottle some.
Oh gosh, I'm so worried about it. I don't bottle.
I know. I was about to say, my dad and I share growlers, and when we don't bottle, oh wait, we still have the beer gun. But yeah, which by the way, Blickman doesn't give me a penny. If you want a bottle from the keg, get a beer gun, guys. Get the freaking beer gun. That is like an amazing piece of equipment. I have been floored with how easy it makes bottling. And maybe you're saying, well, I'd rather have a professional looking counter pressure bottle filler station. Okay. The beer gun for, what is it, $100, I think, is what it costs?
It's reasonable. And everybody that's used one swears by it. I haven't, because I don't bottle, so.
Yeah, it's whatever. I'll take your word for it, Josh.
I'll trust you.
But so what I would suggest, and I'm not just saying this because we're on air, email James and let him help you configure your solution.
Jay Carlson at cmbecker.com. If you go to cmbecker.com's website, the front page at the very bottom is my contact information. Be more than happy to help you make a decision. And man, I love keezer builds. They're neat. You could really make them look cool.
I was going to say, you live for that stuff. And the good thing is, whatever y'all work out, you could literally give it to Zach or Joe, and they will make the order up, and wood will be taken care of. It'll be.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when you get it done, give us a shout. And then, heck, Josh could put it on our Instagram feed.
I would love that. Absolutely.
And we could even put it on CMB's Instagram.
It would be wonderful. It would get used. The Instagram, Sam Becker.
Yeah, you can put a post there. That'd be cool.
Once a year, huh? Anyways, Wood, thank you so much for submitting the question, Mr. Carlson. That does it for this week, my friend.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate your time. I small talked you to death, but not as much. Guys who have submitted feedback and said, what's up with all the small talk? I'm getting better. I don't think I mentioned Kolsch, but twice today. The small talk was reined in. Todd's not here either. Todd and I feed off each other. I blah, blah, blah. He tells me I'm boring. It's kind of a give and take. But I appreciate you setting aside the time to do it. I'm going to bring you some delicious kombucha on Monday. I'm looking forward to filming the first few episodes of our new show. And again, if you go to patreon.com/homebrew happy hour, you can keep up. Even if you don't join, you can keep up with everything we're doing there. Facebook.com/homebrew happy hour, and find us on Instagram at homebrew happy hour. So with that being said, my friend, I will see you on Monday.
See ya.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on the Submit a Question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. Thank you to our show sponsor, Spike Brewing Equipment, for supporting us and the home brewing community. Learn more about their incredible equipment at spikebrewing.com/homebrew happy hour and make the most of your brew day. On behalf of the absent Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.
This program is made possible by the checkbook of Mr. Todd Burns and by contributions to our newly launched Patreon by viewers like you. Visit patreon.com/homebrew happy hour and join our community. Thank you.